I've done a lot of wrestling interviews before, interviewed a lot of people in the wrestling business, but I don't know if there's ever been as much talent in the room at one time as is looking at me right now. This is a major roundtable thing happening in front of me. Low-key, Samoa Joe, MVP, and Homicide. All in front of me.
Pro wrestling's Wu-Tang, man.
What's the haps, gentlemen? What's going on?
I like that. I like pro wrestling's Wu-Tang. I dig that.
Oh, yeah.
You guys hang out together? Is this or what brought? Because I didn't assemble this group. I wish I could take credit for assembling this group. This group was presented to me as would you like this opportunity? And I said I'd love it. What brought you guys together?
Key, you want to take lead on that?
Sure, I'll take the lead on this. What brings us together is a common respect.
Mm-hmm.
You know, pro athletes, professionals. We've known each other for a long time. We've come up through the ranks the same way. We have many elements. We share many elements to our individual careers. You know, I think I had mentioned it to you earlier. We got business, successful businessmen right here.
Yeah.
You have, obviously, wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
But you also got two interesting things.
What's that?
Japan and hip-hop. Something that seems to bind all four of us together throughout our careers, anywhere that we've gone. Whether MVP being from Miami, Homicide and I being from Brooklyn, New York, or Samoa Joe being from the West Coast, there's always elements that bring us together.
How quick? So you guys hang out like this is your
Yeah. We're all boys. Yeah.
Yeah,
We've been known to, frequent the same establishments.
Yeah. Similar interests.
Yeah.
At what point in the business do you know when you found people that you can trust on the level that you guys trust each other? At what point do you know you found your group of people that you want to associate with outside of the business?
I think you discover that kind of quick. I mean,
Yeah?
Birds of a feather. I think it's just that, you like, the old saying, real recognize real.
Mm-hmm.
I met Key at an indie show in, 2000. That's when we first hit it off. And then not too long after that, that's when I met D via Key. And instantly, we didn't know each other. We just but instantly, we hit it off. And when I finally met Joe, same like, yo, man, I've been here about you. Let's roll, And it was instantaneous. It wasn't, it's something that developed just right away. Like, yo, these motherfuckers cool, man. It clicked.
Now, is that difficult because all of you have reputations for your work rate and, like you said, for being businessmen, but more than that, for being able to successfully survive independently, which is not something a lot of people can do. All of you have been able to separate yourselves from a big company and become independently successful. How I would think that once you know that you're in business for yourself, so to speak, there's a lot of competition. How do you know who you can trust? I'm looking at four guys right now that I think are all natural leaders. Mm-hmm. It seems like four alpha males in front of me. Mm-hmm. Like, is there no competition between the four of you?
I think when it comes to competition, there's a professional competition as far as what you want to present to the fans. Mm-hmm. And I think that we all kind of adhere to that, and what we accomplish pushes the others to want to accomplish more. As far as, making a living in the independent circuit and away from major company and stuff, 90% of that's just hustle, man. And there's guys who, who kind of have that bred into them and were brought up in the business with a lot of hustle, and they go out there and they get it, man. And whenever you're away from a large organization and you're out there on your own, the whole thing is you got to be able to create a need and a want and a demand for you to be seen personally.
For your product.
For your product. For you.
brands.
For you. A lot of big companies. When you go see a WWE or even a TNA.
Yeah.
You're partially buying the brand, and when you're out in the independent circuit, you got to sell yourself.
So
you got to make people want to buy tickets to come see you.
You're all in TNA right now.
Yes.
How is it? I would think that when you're an independent person, your destiny's in your own hands, so you're in control of this stuff. When you get to TNA, do all of you have to stop yourselves from trying to control every aspect of the product? Like, I would think that you all have visions for the way TNA should be running, and it doesn't seem like you're the type of people who would be quick to keep their mouths shut.
Some of us,
Nobody in this
some of us keep our composures better than others.
Is that right?
But I mean, yeah, man. I mean, I think as more money gets put into the equation, there's more hands in the pot, and definitely more influence as far as what the product does. So I mean, that comes to the turf, man. You got to realize that the more people that are involved in the fruition of something, the more profit sharing, the more influence is going to get spread around. So
And I tell guys all the time, guys who haven't yet, quote unquote, made it.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, think about all the fuckery that goes on the independent level for $50. Now put 5 zeros behind that $50, in front of the decimal point, and the fuckery is increased exponentially.
Right.
So you have to
For
look
each
out.
zero, there's equal amounts more fuckery. Is what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's where
E equals
it comes
MC
into,
fuckery.
I need that shirt. E equals MC fuckery. But yeah, seriously, I mean, it comes to a point where it doesn't matter what the brand is, whether I was in WWE, TNA, New Japan. You have to take care of your brand.
Right.
Individually. Look
Yeah.
out for you. And, there are times when, somebody might come and say, hey, this is what we need you to do. I'm about business first and foremost.
Mm-hmm.
And the old saying, if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense. But I will say, nah, man, I'm not doing that. It doesn't make sense. But I will do this. I'll come up with a solution or something else. And, that's kind of what keeps all of us, and I think it's okay to speak for everybody, that's kind of what has kept us in the positions that we've been in terms of independent and individual success, being able to step up and say, look, I want to do what's best for this company because we're doing business together, but I still have to maintain the integrity of my brand.
But like Joe said, you also have to know that part of the thing is that there are a lot of hands in the pot and that you don't have control over that. Is that something else that comes with time, that you have to just realize that you have to sit back and just worry about you, not everything else that's going on?
Well, that's what happens when you accept the responsibility of being in business.
Right.
You got to understand there's some things that will be out of your control, so just maintain the control that you have and on the things that affect you directly. I think especially as you hinted at earlier, being leaders, you have an inherent sensation inside of you to just take control.
Right.
And, okay, this isn't working. I know the solution. Let's execute it.
I mean, that's because I think that's what, if I had the ability that you guys do, I would want to go, like here, like it's serious. Every day I want to go down the hall and grab somebody and explain to them exactly what they're doing wrong and exactly what they need to fix.
Well, there's no way to talk about the DJs here, man. Really working hard to make this serious.
No, don't think for 1 second that, and I think it's safe to say, I'd speak for everybody on this. Don't think for 1 second there aren't times when, whatever company we've been at, that you don't want to go down and tell that guy who has, let me turn that down. In pro wrestling nowadays, you got people that are your bosses that have never wrestled.
Right.
Yeah. They're pushing the pen, writing storylines, and for example, I won't say who or where, but there was something written where me and another individual had words, and he pushed me and I pushed him back. Man, I'm a grown-ass motherfucking man. If you push me, I'm not pushing you back. I'm punching you in your face. And I think we're at a level with grown men. If there's going to be physicality, I'm not going to shove you in your chest. I'm going to punch you in your mouth. So obviously, whoever wrote this has never been in a fight before.
Right, right.
And you run into that. And, you have to, but again, because it's business, you can't run down the hall and grab somebody by the throat and say, hey, you have to come at it with a business mindset. Although sometimes Joe does that, though.
Yeah, he'll grab somebody by the throat.
Now they're confirmed.
A collar or two wrapped around.
I'm trying to work out like Homicide. He just whisper mad, messed up stuff to you like real quick, like as he walks by, stab you in your face. What?
Dude, I'm like Joe Pesci of professional wrestling.
That's quite the assessment there.
I'll cut your Achilles tendons when you sleep.
Exactly.
Huh?
What'd you say?
Make sure there's no ballpoint pens in the area because you'll get it in the neck.
No toothbrushes, no pens, no forks.
He
none
can
of
sharpen
that.
anything against a brick wall. I learned that. Wow, it's amazing.
Yo, he'll turn this bottle into.
I know. You give him
Exactly.
a lighter.
People
and-
sound like the MacGyver of weapons.
And MVP's been to prison, and you're the one who can craft a shank.
Yeah, I'm more
Well, he's
calm.
Puerto Rican. It's in his heritage. He spits razor blades. I bet if you check him right now, he got a
Five-time
razor blade in
Bed-Stuy
his
Razor
mouth.
Tag champion.
Right.
I gotta behave. No.
Have you had moments that you've? Well, actually, there's the question. MVP, the guys around you had years of independent experience, whereas when you came into WWE, you were fairly unknown. Did you walk in with that confidence that you're telling me now? Like, did you walk in knowing that you had to take care of yourself and knowing that if somebody came to you with an idea that was not good and not good for your business, you had to be able to turn it down?
I didn't have that. When I stepped into WWE at the time, I didn't have that. That's not an option to you. When you're an unknown indie guy that
Right.
got signed. Fortunately, in my case, MVP was my character that I created. So I was given a lot of latitude and a lot of creative input, on what we could do or what I wanted to do. So the sad part is, and it's funny because hindsight's 20/20. If I knew then the things that I know now, wow, it'd be a different career. Probably would have been a lot shorter too. Yeah, you just you don't have that. And when new guys who have never been, and that's why we keep stressing business, because guys who have been on the indie scene and it's their first time stepping into a situation where they're now in big business, that sometimes gets lost in translation, and they forget at the end of the day it is a business, and they haven't, because the way wrestling is now, you don't have the territories where you can craft your business and you have veterans teaching you. And I spent 5.5 years on the indie scene before I got signed, but I didn't have the success that these guys had, so I didn't have that kind of name brand coming in.
But there's also something special about your situation.
Yeah, nobody really wanted to employ a felon because y'all grimy,
No other options.
no good sons of bitches.
That's what my mother said.
Well, I was going to say that in his instance, he was already a mature adult,
That is true.
whereas a lot of the wrestlers nowadays
I'm getting there.
in the profession, or just professionals or young professionals or people just venturing into new businesses,
Yeah.
just like any other job, it takes time to mature within.
Yeah.
The more time you spend within it, the better you will get, because you will start developing the skills necessary to survive. In his instance, he had already a maturity about him that already set him above other people, a lot of other people, because
And life
again,
experience,
this life
so,
experience, maturity, and then accepting that this is a profession, this is a business, there's a lot more responsibility that follows with that.
And does spending time in jail and then getting out and entering the world of pro wrestling allow you to remove yourself from a lot of the bullshit that maybe people wouldn't realize was unnecessary?
Yeah, if you've done time in jail or if you've been to prison, and then
What's
you get,
beef? What's beef, Hassan? Tell them what beef is, man.
Yeah, you want? I'll tell you what beef is. Yeah, there were plenty of times when I would find myself in a situation and I would kind of chuckle, like, man, I'll fly above that, man, because that's yeah, it does prepare you in some ways, but in other ways it completely throws you off, because there are some guys. I won't mention any names, but that had a very significant title, but have never in their life been in a fist fight ever.
Gotcha.
So it's like, man, you're you were holding a company title, but you admit I've never traded blows in anger.
Right.
And like, what does pro wrestling come to? That this guy has never been in a fight, yet his job is to go out and simulate combat every night. And then
No, I guess so. You're talking about performers in the ring that have not been in an actual
You've
fight.
never been in a fight, but your job is to simulate combat every
Right.
night. So I don't get that. But if you spend any time in jail or prison, and there are two things that gives you. One, yeah, the physicality, because that's just gladiator school. That's going to happen. But the other thing is all the intrigue. You remember Oz?
Yeah, of course.
Remember Ryan O'Reilly?
Yes.
That man, you got a lot of those people. And I tell people all the time, when you look at pro wrestling and you see all these jacked up tough guys, I have never seen a bigger collection of sissies, wimps, and insecure punks in my life. Because these guys, it's not real. You know, we're entertaining. You know,
Yeah.
that title is a prop. You didn't really win that. If it was a real fight, you wouldn't be doing it.
Right.
You know, so they get lost in the fantasy world. But hey, we're entertaining, there's the intrigue and the backstabbing and the positioning, and that same environment exists in prison. The only difference is in prison you could lose your life, and in wrestling you probably lose your job.
And I guess that's the sweet spot, is figuring out how seriously to take yourself as a character in the sense of business. Like, no, I'm not going to be in a situation where I'm going to shove somebody back who shoved me, but at the same time realizing still it's a character, and the accolades that this character has don't apply to real life.
Right. Being able to make that distinction. Sure.
Yeah. So tell me about TNA. Of course, the biggest story in TNA right now is the deal with the television. And even though you guys are not television executives, it impacts your future in a big way. No pun intended.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, you see that. Is TNA, do you have any idea, is TNA continuing on Spike TV? Do we know?
No.
You know what? The only thing I know is this. I know that Spike TV has not issued an actual formal document saying that they will not be renewing Impact. Have you seen one?
Absolutely not.
I haven't seen one. The only thing I've heard is that they don't comment on ongoing negotiations.
Right.
And the last, the company narrative that we heard is that negotiations are still ongoing. So, but, especially since we've been here in New York, the ratings have spiked. See what I did there?
I love that. No pun intended, or maybe a little pun intended.
Yeah, pun very much intended.
Yeah.
So, and I get, all these trolls on Twitter, does anybody still watch that? Which is ridiculous because they've, Impact averages over 1 million viewers a week. And just recently, we were as high as 1.6 million viewers. So even if Spike were to say, okay, we don't want to go on with this relationship anymore, I'm sure there are enough networks out there that would welcome over 1 million viewers a week. So I don't feel imperiled. I don't think that TNA is in danger of going out of business, which leads me to another rant that I'll keep short. What the fuck? I don't get these guys that are celebrating the possible death of a wrestling company. Why would you wish a company out of business? I don't get that. I don't understand that mentality.
It seems there's an internet mentality, I think, that anytime something bad is, you hope something bad happens to somebody else because you feel like that's good news for you. If it's bad news for not you, then it's good news for you, which we all know is not the case at all.
I don't. That doesn't compute to me
At all.
Yeah, not at
Well,
all.
something that seems to be very common too is, especially in the wrestling community with the internet, it just gives them a false sense of security. They can say whatever they want, hiding behind a computer, whereas they'll never do it in person.
Right.
And because of Twitter being so fast, quick responses almost nearly immediately. Facebook the same way. A younger generation growing up on that as a method of communication instead of the old way of speaking to somebody head on. That's creating a whole new mentality, a whole different way of interacting with other people.
You should send them all the clip of Dr. D and John Stossel and say, keep asking stupid questions.
Well, eventually technology will get to a point where we'll be able to cyber punch somebody through a screen.
Right. And you won't shove, you'll cyber punch.
Yeah, cyber punch.
But, and not even taking that route with everything. I mean, it's just, I think, and I've made this point before in the past to people, it's that, when we hold our major news organizations to a certain standard as far as sourcing and, coming up with tangible evidence of why this story is breaking, not rumors.
Fact check.
And, we just, it's funny that we just, for people who are so intent on knowing the truth of the behind the scenes workings of professional wrestling, that they could care less about a fact check, just as long as that, just as long as that headline reads sources say.
Yeah.
I mean, sources say is kind of it's just the funniest thing to me, because you expect me to respect your intelligence and your opinion on a situation, and then the situation you're talking about is from sources say, and you didn't take, you didn't have the common courtesy or responsibility, personal responsibility, to kind of check it out and see, where their sources are, even if they are credible, or I mean, I understand anonymity, and especially in a business like this, but at the same time, man, it just cracks me up at how quick things can firestorm and how people just take kind of face value.
But somebody sent me on Twitter a link, and I never read any of those because these guys refer to themselves as internet journalists. No, you're not a journalist, man. You're a rumor monger. Fuck you. But I had done an interview, and I made some mention about Kurt Angle and how if I didn't get a chance to wrestle him before he was done, how much I really want to do that and how disappointed I would be. And I alluded to his age and the wear and tear on his body.
Sure.
And I was talking about the fact that, hey, the clock is ticking on his career. I didn't intimate anything about him potentially leaving TNA. I was just talking about his physical ability to continue to be able to compete.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody sent me a link to a headline on some wrestling website that said MVP hints at Kurt Angle leaving. And people are gonna, oh man, I want to see that. I want to see that.
It's clickbait.
So it's clickbait. There you go. I'd never heard that term before.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. That's it. Intentionally misleading to get people to read the article. But Kurt and I talked about it and we laughed because he said, I read it and you said no such thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just ridiculous. But like you said, people, they want to know the truth. They want to know the truth, but they don't really care about the truth.
They want something dramatic. They want something juicy.
Drama.
They can sink their teeth in and call their buddy and say, "Oh, did you hear?
They just want confirmation of what they already thought was true.
Samoa Joe said that Homicide stabbed somebody. Did you hear about it?"
And they'll never do the work themselves.
No.
They want somebody else to do it. They don't want to worry about facts. They don't want to worry about truth. They just want something entertaining.
Yeah.
And that seems to be just a common mindset.
Mm-hmm. It's a weird thing. But when the negotiations are at least ongoing, and TNA has gone up and down and whatever, does that affect how you perform? Does that affect it?
No,
that never does.
It doesn't kill your
And I
morale.
can probably answer this better than most of these guys because I've been around for a few of these.
Yeah.
And I remember last time, it was an 11th hour type of thing, and it has been pretty much every renewal they've done. There's been kind of an 11th hour kind of, all right, they finally come to a deal. But they're rough negotiations. They go at it hard. So, it doesn't affect your performance because, basically, you have a job to do. You have a crowd to perform for, and they pay good money to come see you. And, you really have to focus on that. And, it doesn't do you any favors to allow an extraneous situation like that to affect what you do and what you deliver in the ring.
And it probably goes back to being in, you're representing yourself as a business. You start having lousy matches because you think the company's going under, and and then guess what? The company goes under, and you've got no place to go because you're having lousy matches.
But I can say
Bingo.
unequivocally for every guy at this table, it's not in us, in our professional ability to go out, step in that ring, and not work. There have been times in the past, and I remember when I was at WWE, there were times when I'd be in a throwaway match, and I was in the doghouse or whatever, and I'd say, oh man, I'm just gonna go out there and just go through the motions. But when I step in that ring, I'm incapable of doing that. My professionalism won't let me, and then I go to work and I put my heart and soul into my performance every time. And I know the Homicide does the same thing. Joe Key, you can't call yourself a professional, and the passion that we hold that has driven us to do this at the level that we've done it for as long as we have, you can't just toss that aside. It's an impossibility.
Well, MVP touched upon something.
Yeah.
Passion to be professional.
Right.
That's something that's lost because this profession used to have a stable structure of advancement. Back in the day with the territories, you earned your way from each territory until you made it big to go into WWF or the NWA. It was a grooming process to be at that level.
And even later on, some would say that you'd have ECW, then you'd have WCW, and then you finally made it to WWE.
Well, in that respect, at least ECW was headed by somebody who has been in the profession at that time for a long time.
Yes.
So at least the guidance, the management system was well educated in the profession. Whereas now the structure has changed, and for whatever reason, because there are no longer any territories, they're grabbing what appears to be popular. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're the perfect ones for the job. They just appear to be popular, so companies are snatching them up.
Right.
And in this type of profession, just like any other job, you take time to mature within and get better.
That's true.
You can't fast track guys. Not in this profession.
Right.
Because this is a total package deal because on top of your physical performance, you have a presence that you must establish. And not everyone can do it.
It's just performing in front of crowds. But it seems like there's less and less big crowds to perform in front of.
And that's indicative of the structure of how the profession is set up now.
Right. When let me go back in time a little bit because you were talking about independent wrestling. when ECW folded, I feel like, especially, Low-Key, Samoa Joe, and Homicide were of this generation of guys who everybody knew if ECW were around, you'd be the next generation of guys, and you'd be on this, a form of this thing that we just talked about. When ECW shut its doors for you guys, was that a scary time? Are you going like, what the fuck are we gonna do now?
At the beginning, it was very scary for me because I always wanted to go to the ECW.
Right.
New York City, Madison Square Garden Network, 11 o'clock at night, in the morning. I was watching like people like Sabu, Terry Funk, and I'm like, man, I want to be just like these guys now. This is 1995. I started in 93. So after that, I was doing the Independence in New Jersey area, and when they folded, basically my dreams just crushed. And after that, I met a different company in Philadelphia. That's how I met guys like Samoa Joe, MVP. I went to Florida. That I noticed the international scene. So when ECW closed down, I was kind of like, okay, everything is cool because I got a backup plan. And my backup plan was, I would start traveling because I was just stuck in New York and I wanted to get out.
In the beginning, it was scary.
Yeah.
But then you figured it out that there's just a different path to take now.
Yes, you just gotta have the brains. You gotta have confidence that you can do very good things and just come out the woodwork.
Yeah.
Japan was one of my goals. So after ECW closed down, I went to Japan. Even though it was Big Japan Pro Wrestling, it was a hardcore promotion. But, it was good. I love the guys in there. Then Low-Key introduced me to 01 Pro Wrestling. I went to 01, did a couple of tours. Then after that, like I said, man, I met MVP and Samoa Joe, who got a lot of experience with Japanese culture wrestling, and I just got hooked.
Right.
So I got like myself from Brooklyn, from the gutter, hangs out with pimps and G's and gangsters, To me, this is big because I never made it to the Madison Square Garden. I never went to ECW. But hanging out with these guys, be on TV, have my toy video game, it's big for me.
Yeah.
I went to Australia and I was hanging out with damn kangaroos. Even though it's funny, but we got no kangaroos in the zoo in Brooklyn.
Listen, he didn't go see kangaroos. He was hanging out.
I was hanging out. Like, I wanted to box them. Then I heard about some Sugar Ray letter. Like, nah, son, I'm not going to do that,
Right.
But it was so cool,
Mr. Homicide, you can't bring that hotel. Oh, okay. Never mind.
Yeah. This is my boy, though. This is my kangaroo. We've been hanging all day.
Be chilling, man. I love kangaroos, man. So what?
Yeah.
We don't get that Bronx Zoo. Come on,
No.
By the way,
No.
yeah, but it was so cool. But after that ECW closed down, man, it was just sad, man. Because
Which is some of the stuff you were talking about goes back to what you were saying. That on one end, you have somebody like Homicide who's like he's grown up in the streets with G's and pimps and then on the other end, you got guys who've never been in a fist fight, and you're putting these two in a ring together. And
hold on a second. Why'd you look at me when you said that?
But you know what? That's something that I want to touch on. You're talking about going back.
Yeah.
I was in Florida, in Miami, and unfortunately, when I broke in, 2000 is when I started training.
Yeah.
And I think I met Key in 2001, late 2000, maybe early 2000. So no, because I was wrestling. Yeah, so about 2001, I think we met. Yeah. And at that time, Norman Smiley, who was one of the guys that helped groom me, had introduced me to Japanese wrestling. And as soon as I saw, because I've always had a fascination.
You had the common courtesy and introduce him to some knee pads, man.
Nah, because he don't need them. But he introduced me to that, and the first time I saw that, I said, I want to do that. That's what I want to do. And then, right about this time, ROH jumps on the scene. And here's the indictment. You know what's coming next. These motherfuckers fucked up the Indies. Right here. They did. Because it didn't take much longer before here come everybody wants to kick like Low-Key and everybody wants to be stiff like Samoa Joe and they want to be a G like Homicide, do that strong style and this. And all of a sudden you got guys who didn't have that ability, didn't have that talent trying to emulate that.
Right.
And
you're like, I don't want to get hit hard. That's not why I'm doing this.
There's an art to this shit, man. And okay, sometimes with certain guys, you work a little more snug than others, but there's a way to do it without killing people. But then you got guys that want to do that, but don't have the balls to do it. So they, I'm gonna kick like Low-Key, but you kick more like Low-Key's. Now I can't even say sister because the sisters are pretty hard too.
She kicked that hard though.
But to that point, I was in Florida, so we had some stuff jumping off in Florida at the time on the indie scene, but
Yeah.
I'm in a peninsula way down. I didn't, have New York, Philly. I didn't have that area where you could really get known. So it wasn't until FIP started running in South Florida, or in Florida, actually more Tampa, that I had an opportunity to come up here and do a do or die match for Ring of Honor with Homicide and start trying to get my name out there. But these guys influenced me as well.
Right.
I remember when Key first went to 0-1, we were talking on the phone. He was in New York, I was in Miami. And, I was like, man, I am so fucking jealous right now, but in a positive way. Like, damn, I want to do that too. And, these guys were going over there doing that, and I wasn't yet, but that's what I wanted to do. And I remember back then, I wanted to work with Joe because as far as the indie scene was, there were no big guys that could go with Joe like that. And I was like, yo, I want to work with this guy. I want to work with this guy. And it never came to fruition then, but they influenced me in that regard because I know I want to do the Japanese style. I like that. And I took, elements from what they did and worked it into mine so that I could be of that ilk. And, ultimately it came to the point where I said, okay, I literally, I don't know how many of your listeners know this, but I quit WWE so that I could go to Japan. I asked for a release from my contract because my dream was to work in Japan. My dream was the Tokyo Dome. And WWE was a goal, but Japan, New Japan Pro Wrestling, that was my dream.
Which people don't believe because it's not typical. You don't hear that. Everybody's dream is supposed to be WWE,
But that's because that's their universe. Outside, you have WWE fans, and then you have wrestling fans.
So how did you become a fan of Japanese wrestling? Like, how did you develop this dream to wrestle in Japan?
I was given a tape back in the thing. Imagine that, VHS tapes. And Norman Smiley said, "Watch this," and I'll never forget. It was Kawada versus Misawa, and I'm watching. I saw the Tiger Driver '91, and if you don't know what that is, just go and go to YouTube and look up Tiger Driver '91. My sick, fucked up mind, when I saw that, I said, I want to do that. That's what I want to do. And then I discovered Chono, who to me is the coolest motherfucker ever to grace a wrestling ring, period. And then Muda, and then and all these other guys that, that to me, their work rate and their style and everything that they did was just so fucking cool. And in Japan, pro wrestling is still, even now, more sport than spectacle. And here in the U.S., it's more spectacle than sport. In Japan, you don't have 20-minute promo sessions. That doesn't exist. You have a guy come out and say, hey, I don't like you. I don't like you. Okay, next show, we're going to fight. Okay, we fight. Bam. And it's on. You get 20 minutes of wrestling and 30 seconds of talking.
Now, Loki, you also quit WWE, correct?
No, they actually fired me 2 days before Christmas.
They did. You weren't there long.
Officially, I was with them beginning in 2009, and I was gone at the end of 2010.
Right. Now, were you ready to go when they fired you, or was that a
I
surprise?
was ready to go when I arrived.
Wasn't your cup of tea?
Well, it's just, again, in a profession that takes time to mature, I had already matured at that point. I just needed to be introduced to that system.
Right.
Their version of that is sending me to reprogramming in Tampa, which I volunteered to show up because I wanted to maintain my in-ring skill because I always had, that type of respect. And as he said earlier, being professional, you don't allow that part which you control to go down.
Sure.
And, because I've known many people who have been in the company before my arrival, they would always tell me things about the conduct of business, the way things are there. And, again, I'm not going to say anything badly about the company, but there are probably a lot more beneficial ways of organizing and constructing their business so that they can benefit as well as the people who work with them or work for them. They can probably do a lot better job of doing that. And you can tell when they're not doing well because of the ratings and because of the houses. And that's just going to be just practicality purposes in business. If you're doing the right thing, people will show up.
To your point, he won NXT.
Right, which was the developmental reality show thing.
What was the second season?
The second season, yeah.
When the fans said, that's the guy we want to see. He won. The fans voted for him, and then they released him.
Did that work against you, though? That they didn't see you as the guy, the fans see you as the guy?
Oh, no, because they can't touch me in the ring.
Right.
my perception behind that is, I'm in control of myself in that ring, and I've worked myself long and hard to make sure that my skill level is at the highest, because I take pride in what I do. I mean, Homicide was the one who began my training. The first day I trained with him, I nearly bit my tongue off. So it was either suck it up, get back in there and finish the job, or stick your tail between your legs and walk off. And I wasn't going to back down. So from day one, the mentality of not backing down was already there.
How quick did you know that Low-Key had the ability to be Low-Key?
Well, he just had a great passion for the art of pro wrestling. I remember one time I went to a church, and it was a wrestling, and it was in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, and he was talking about Deep Lincoln and Great Muta and stuff like that, and I'm like, man, this guy know his stuff. I saw him wrestle, doing his little chain wrestling and high flying. And I'm like, oh, this guy's going to make it. And I practice with him. And I used to be one of those trainers that just suck it up, just shut the fuck up and train. You know what I mean? And
would he literally say that?
Like,
not to me, because he didn't have to.
Right.
But I've seen him just...
Nah, man. I mean...
lay people out.
I had like Bengay, my fingertip. I used to blind people. And I used to beat because I had that West Texas mind. Because my heroes are Terry Funk, Bruiser Brody, Stan Hansen.
Well, why'd you have to blind people, though?
I don't know, man. I just don't want no bunch of pussies in my crew. You know what I mean? Like Samoa Joe said it. We are the Wu-Tang Clan. We form like Voltron. So we gonna be up there. You know what I mean?
Right.
We are grown men. We not a bunch of pussies. This is not ballet. This is pro wrestling.
I would love to see the Voltron that you four would form.
Oh my God, we'd be a violent Voltron. You know
You
what
would,
I mean?
right?
It's gonna be more than fire than laser.
Right.
Blazing sword.
Yeah, it's gonna be pew pew. It's gonna be kaboom. You know?
Right. Atomic Voltron.
Exactly, but when I saw Kid doing this thing, I'm like, yo, he got a bright future. And after that, he went to ECWN in Delaware. After that, he went to Japan. I was like, this guy's gonna make it.
He's
You
good.
know, I like me. He'll be like personal boys. That's my little brother. But I'm like, yo, this guy's gonna make it. Then after that, he just controlled the world, went all over the world.
What about and so back to what we were talking about before. So you knew WWE was not a fit for you as soon as you got there.
When I arrived, yes, because I can see it in advance. Because Homicide began my training for the in-ring physicality. The business training that I acquired was through Jim Kettner, the former owner of the ECWA in Delaware, the guy that used to run the Super 8 tournaments annually. He'd been in business at that point 35, 40 years, but in professional wrestling business, organizing a company, understanding how to develop people, understanding how to groom them, and have their skills advance over a period of time. So I had teaching under that, 40 years of business teaching being shared with me in order to approach the professional wrestling business.
And so you looked at this like a chess game. Like you saw it a few moves in advance and saw this isn't going to end well.
You always have to do it.
So did you just go, okay, I'm going to go out and have as good matches as I can and just realize that this is not going to be a long trip here in the WWE?
Well, the thing is, I mean, the writing was on the wall. Their audience, the people who pay to see their wrestlers, voted for me. And I was actually told by management that through the entire season, there was no mathematical way for me to lose the season by the audience vote because I had accumulated 66% of the vote for the entire season.
At what point?
This was in total the second to last event. So,
Okay, so you're already like 2 weeks out. You go mathematically, you can't.
Yeah, and they told me, they go, if you lose, then something's up. So I was like, well, I'm not here to debate any of that. I can only wrestle. So, I deal with that in the ring. But as far as that goes, I mean, I wasn't going to allow, however they tried to treat me, as a reason for me not to put my best out on that platform.
Right.
Because, I mean, you don't really get a chance to be on that platform, on that stage too frequently. And, I just tried to do the best that I could with it under the circumstances that I was presented with, which weren't necessarily the best. But, my in-ring ability spoke for me. I didn't have to, assimilate myself to that environment too much. But people can see that something didn't seem right. And I think it was, fair to say that they were betrayed. The audience was betrayed by the conduct, but in reality, it really didn't matter. We went our separate ways. Everyone's, taking care of themselves. It's not a big deal.
Is it initially jarring when you leave something like that, and for you to MVP? Like when you, even though it's not the right fit for you anymore, even though this is the best move, today I don't have guaranteed money that I had yesterday. I don't have this contract that I had yesterday. Is that something that you have to get out of your system, or are you able to immediately say, okay, I know what the next step is?
Joe said it earlier. With the hustler mentality,
Yeah.
that's not a concern.
Right.
Because, all right,
was
this
never a
happened.
concern for me.
It wasn't.
No, I knew I'd be able to make money. I just and in my case, when I left, I hadn't spoken to Japan. I hadn't already set something up. I just felt very confident that based on my ability and what I could do, I'd be able to go there and make money. I went there. I was in New Japan for 2 years, and I said, hey, look, I'm done. I want to go back to the States, take a little time off, work on some other projects, and I was never concerned about it because, like Joe said, every guy sitting here has a hustler's mentality, and it's been that way from day one. So whether it was wrestling or whatever it was we'd be doing, we'd be hustling.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say something to MVP's credit as well. He left the WWE voluntarily to pursue his dream.
Right.
And he did something that there was only one other person who was able to do as far as an American goes, doing something that special in Japan. He debuted as the first champ, or not debuted, but he became the first champion for the IWGP Intercontinental title. Mm-hmm. The only other person to do something like that with that type of prestige was Hulk Hogan when he claimed the IWGP Heavyweight Championship in the I'm not sure if it was the late 80s or the early 90s.
Yeah.
So he left the grandest stage of them all in the WWE and then went and did that in Japan.
Well, and it's
That's big.
a pretty big deal too that even though you're in Japan the whole time, there is still an awareness in the States of who you are, which you can't say for most of the athletes in Japan.
Yeah,
I mean that's
true.
a big deal.
Well, it was funny because when New Japan came here and did their tour of the Northeast, and I remember we all went to Yankee Stadium, and all the boys, all the office, everybody were there in Yankee Stadium. And I remember kind of laughing to myself because every few minutes somebody would come over, yo, MVP, you signed my ball? Yo, MVP, you signed my hat? Which was great for me, with the office and the boys. Oh, MVP, very famous. Oh, so I'm like, yeah, it brings my stock up. And we were walking through the fairway, and as we're walking past, the different, food shops and all that, people, yo, that's MVP, yo, MVP. And at one point, Red Shoes, Uno, one of the wrestlers over there, oh, MVP, you very famous, like Mr. Chono-san. I'm like, no. Wow.
You weren't ready for that.
But I'm glad you think that. I'm glad you feel that way.
He didn't say that. He was like, yup. Damn right. Damn, I'm just sitting up here with y'all because my box is getting clean.
Without harping on WWE too much, I want to ask Joe and Homicide too. Why haven't, and I think, WWE's model, especially right now, it seems like it's taking a lot of the talent that Ring of Honor had and that became very famous and well-known in Ring of Honor, bringing them over, and they've all been very, very successful as of late, and it seems like that's a trend that's continuing. I think a lot of people have wondered why Samoa Joe never has had a WWE run.
We've literally never talked.
Really?
I mean, outside of when I first initially started my career, I was out in Southern California, and within the first couple of years, I did some tryout stuff for him. Mm-hmm. But I mean, that's just basically rolling through town, and the best guys who were around at the time, especially in that era for them, it was just more using local talent. And like I said, I was 2 years in. Oh, you want to do a WWE Heat match, I think, or something like that?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Heat, Jack,
I'm a second-year pro wrestler.
Yeah.
And it's funny because from that, I think people glean that, oh, I was with the company and all this stuff, and it's like, no, I was in town, and I was asked to come, and I did the work. And outside of that, I worked for a pseudo-developmental territory early on in my career in California, and I had interactions with those guys all the time. I mean, Jim Ross, Bruce Pritchard, who was there at the time. I mean, they've known me since pretty much I kind of started. So, I mean, there was initial kind of discussions and stuff, but I was also in the same era of, John Cena, who they're really high on, and they should have been because John was working his ass off.
Yeah.
I give him all the appreciation in the world for his success, and Nathan Jones, John Heidenreich, and the company I was affiliated with. That's who he wanted to market to them. Mm-hmm. I was fine with that. I mean, I didn't care at that time. I had already started a career in Japan. I had already established kind of an income outside of the realm of WWE. So I mean, it just really was not something I was really looking forward to.
And I think that's what a lot of people don't really fully grasp, that is a mindset that a lot of people have.
That's a credit to WWE's marketing team.
Yeah.
I mean, they've convinced not only the wrestlers but the fans that this is the path. That is,
Right.
This
The
is
be
the
all
golden
end
way.
all.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right.
And
The idea
I
that
give
you
them
had
all the
an-
credit in the world for that. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's a tremendous multi-year type of promotional campaign that they have actually just seeped it into people's heads, and that's cool. I mean, it's tough unless you're in this situation and you're
Well,
in some of the opportunities I had. It's really tough to understand some of the decisions I've made.
But you look, Dana White's done the same thing with UFC. How
Yeah.
many times have you heard some airhead, my boyfriend's a UFC fighter? No, your boyfriend is an MMA fighter.
Right.
He's not a UFC fighter. Or, oh, we're going to the UFC fights this weekend. No, you're not, because UFC isn't in town, but the local whatever fight promotion. So, people at cola. I'd like a cola. What do people? Oh, let me get a Coke.
Yeah.
What kind of Coke you got?
I mean, yeah, there are places in the country where an orange soda is referred to as a Coke.
Yeah, it's a Coke. Yeah. Let me get an orange. Let me get
And
an orange
I got to
Coke.
bring something else up. I hope someday people understand how contracts work. Because you get it all the time. Why don't you do this and why don't you do that? I'm like, because I'm under contract.
Contract.
Yeah.
Oh, I got to tell the story. real
Mello
quick
doesn't
about
walk
Joe.
out of New York halfway through the season and just be like, nah, man.
Nah,
I'm
I'm
feeling
gonna
it.
play in LA.
Yeah,
to
the
the
Heat's a
Bucks.
great team. I'm gonna go join that team.
Yeah.
When my first tryout for TNA, when they were still in Nashville, I got on my own dime, flew myself out, and I had to work Eric Watts, and that in itself was a bit of a great guy, but just But I remember that afternoon, hearing, I knew who Joe was, I'd seen him, and hadn't met him yet, but Joe was supposed to be there, and I remember Bill Barons being pissed off because Samoa Joe no-showed, and I remember thinking, yo, this motherfucker no-showed these people. Wow. Like, that's, damn. Like, here I am trying to get a job walking on eggshells. And he was like, yeah, I got other shit to do. I can't make it out there.
That wasn't what happened. But
But at the time, that shit impressed the fuck out of me. Like,
It did.
hell yeah.
He was like, I got a lot going on. I can't be there for you guys at times.
How do you, but which plays into what he was just talking about the mentality, especially if you're a young guy coming into the business and a big company is looking at you to give you a job. If you're a young guy and you've never been anywhere and you've never done anything, like, you're literally tiptoeing around in the back.
Right.
And I watch these guys, whether it's TNA, whether it's WWE, I watch guys that are coming in trying to get looked at or trying to get a job. You can see their fear. They don't want to get heat because they didn't speak to this person or because they sat at a table they shouldn't have sat at, or just ridiculous shit like that. Like, yo, I'm a man, you're a man. Guys would come up, hello MVP sir. Like, nah, dude, come on, dispense with all that. Man.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting because in the past, especially the era before the Attitude Era, it was a different culture. There was more mature adults in the profession, and there was much more guidance from more experienced and matured wrestlers from the previous generation.
So there's a feeling that the older generation, for the sake of the business, wants this thing to continue and raise the younger generation properly.
Absolutely.
And I mean, again, culturally, just in the world, it was just a different time.
Yeah.
So it was a different mentality. It was a different way of interacting with one another, a different way of doing business together. What is it? Flair and Dusty, they talk about the $1 million month or something like that. How often is that happening now? It's not. Especially with companies that don't have the resources that the WWE or TNA have.
Right.
It's very difficult to get accomplished.
Now, do you, the four of you really, do you take it upon yourselves to say, okay, I'm at a certain point in my career, I need to try to dispense guidance to these young guys that are coming up now?
These young guys, I don't know, man. In my personal opinion, these young guys don't know credit about the new generation right now. Like myself, I always say that I'm going to retire, I'm taking a break, and blah, 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 and all this. That I'm looking at my past, I'm looking at the guys on the table, I'm like, maybe not. Maybe I'm going to have a couple of years, but there's somebody behind us of this new generation that needs to learn. And I just don't like the new generation. That's my biggest problem.
You don't like anybody.
No, just the new generation. I mean, it's true.
Ancient, angry pro wrestler ever.
I just don't, man, because I don't know, man.
It's like the grumpy old man in the locker room.
It is. I'm the uncle, the drunk uncle at the party. I am grumpy. I am. Yeah, you're right. But yeah, man, it's this new generation that they don't got the guidance. They don't got the pioneers. Like, they don't got the proper trainers right now. now. Like,
But
we
they
are the
also
last.
probably know if they come to you, you're going to blind them with Ben Gay.
Oh yeah,
They're going to go
actually,
elsewhere.
I'll upgrade. I got Tiger Balm now.
Oh, okay.
And
All right.
fingernails. I'm like Freddy Krueger right now. So
Tiger Balm
That's
with
what Green Mist is made out of, Tiger Balm.
Yeah.
Oh,
my eyes.
What about the rest of you guys? Is that something that you think about, or is it just a different time?
It is a different time, and again, with the everything evolves, and sometimes things evolve for the better. Sometimes they devolve, and with the business of professional wrestling, back when you had territories, you had places where guys could learn, and then eventually they would move up the ranks and be with one of the major national organizations. That doesn't exist anymore. There's nowhere for guys to learn. So if guys are working on a local indie circuit, those guys are only going to be as good as the best guy there. Well, the best guy there has never been anywhere. He's never worked with anybody that's been able to teach him something. So what does he know? So as far as a new generation, yeah, don't get me wrong, there are guys out there that got it. And but when I come across them, it's like a rare jewel. Like, oh yeah, he got it. And I'll dispense. I will. The what's that biblical quote? Cast ye not your pearls to the swine.
Okay.
Yeah, because this.
Right, I understand what you're saying. So most of the younger guys aren't really looking for advice.
I call them fanboys.
Fanboys.
I was at
Because that's what they're
That's
wrestling
what they
fans
are.
that they think they know it all.
I was at an
Exactly.
indie show in Galveston a few weeks ago, or maybe a few months ago. I can't remember. It was a convention/show, and it was just out of control and disorganized, and way too many matches. And I stood around and I actually made the comment. I said, "Does every fucking kid here have a title?" Guys are walking around with titles, and it's like everybody got a title. Like,
Right.
everyone's walking around, and they're walking around with it. It's not.
It goes back to that thing where it's like, I earned this title.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey,
It's-
this cat getting booked on no Frank Goodman shows with that kind of attitude. Ain't no 32 match cards in your future. I'm talking like that.
Man, it was funny because at that particular show, AJ was there, and the guy had actually written a script for me and AJ.
AJ Styles.
AJ Styles,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, the phenomenal AJ Styles wrote a script for us to go back and forth in the ring, and AJ was supposed to work a local guy.
At an indie show.
At an indie show. Okay. And it's already 10 o'clock, and they're like on the ninth of 17 matches, or whatever the hell it was. And
Frank's cousin.
I'm just thinking about that dude like revising it at night, like writing your verbiage out, and then like, "Hey, punk ass." No, he wouldn't say that. Listen here, hillbilly. Yeah, that's a good one.
Well, it was funny because at one point it was like, I actually felt that I was really at work because I got all the matches and all this stuff in my hand, and I just took control. I'm like, okay, here's the deal. This is what we need to do. This is ridiculous. You need to take these 2 single matches, turn them into a tag match, condense this. You need to dispense with intermission, keep the show rolling. But so I look out there, and I couldn't find this guy, but they did the intermission. And I said, look, man, I signed on, you paid me and I'm going to do my job, but I'm not going to be here till midnight for this. I'm just not doing it. Mm-hmm. So a little while later, AJ and Mike Dell was the guy's name. They were up. And I said, AJ, you ready for this, man? He's like, yeah. I said, look, screw the script. I'm going to go out there. I said, Mike, here's what we're going to do. You go out there and you just cut a promo about how you should be on the show and you should have a match and you'll take on any competitor. And I was doing the GM gimmick on the show because I was hurt. And I was like, all right, I'll come out and I'll say, you want a match? You got it. And we'll bring out AJ. You guys have a match. And AJ's like, cool. Because AJ didn't want to do a promo and all that, So the guy is actually out in the ring doing a raffle. I'm like, dude, you got like 5 matches left and it's 10 o'clock. What are you doing? So you guys ready? I just walked out there, I took the mic from him, and I said, ladies and gentlemen, it's been brought to my attention that there's some guy that wants to get beef off his chest or whatever, and the guy comes out, I give him the mic, and he does his deal, and I said, okay, I got a match for you. I got a friend that's in town just for you, did the whole spiel. AJ came out, crowd went wild, and I went over to the guy, gave him the mic, I said, that's a wrap, dude, I'm going home, good night.
That was it?
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, I'm not hanging around for that.
Right.
But that speaks to what Key was talking about people now in the business, operating businesses that don't know what they're doing.
Right.
So these young guys have nobody to learn from. There's, as he learned from Kettner, there's no one to teach these young guys because they don't know what they're doing.
Exactly.
Because a fanboy gets some money, can get string enough dollars together to put on an indie show, and they get to live out this dream, but they don't know.
Dream card.
Yeah, they don't know what they're
about
doing.
the trade.
I'd just
They
like to
play this
say,
video
if
game.
any of you fanboys got like a lot of money, I'm available to help them dreams come to fruition. But it's got to be like a lot of money because we want to do it right. You know what I'm saying? You know?
It's like Make-A-Wish, but very well paid. I understand. Let me ask you, I'm not asking about CM Punk the person because I think that's a stupid question. I want to ask about the mentality because a lot of wrestling fans, I think, do not understand the move that CM Punk made in that he had what is theoretically the spot anybody would dream of and just kind of walking off. And a lot of fans think he owes him something. A lot of fans don't understand why he would leave. Speak from your experiences in the amount of time that you've spent in pro wrestling. Do you understand the mentality of just not being into it anymore? Does that happen?
Yes.
I went to Japan.
That's what you did to get over it.
I left. I went to Japan, and I as Joe said, a lot of fans forget that it's a business.
Yeah.
For us, it's yes. As much as we love it, as passionate as we are, it's our job. It's
Yeah.
a business. So they can't relate to it because they watch it on the screen and it's larger than life and it's this. But at the end of the day,
Well, for you guys, it's not 2 hours on Thursday on my couch. It's
Exactly.
going around the
Yeah,
country,
yeah.
and it's
This
actually
is
having to work and
our life.
Yeah.
So, it's hard to unless you can actually relate it to if you go to your job and you're passed over for a promotion, or if your boss doesn't give you that bonus that he owes you, or if you feel that whatever the case may be, and I'm not saying that was the case with Punk, but
right. I brought up Punk just as an example of the mentality.
I'm just trying to relate it to something that fans might be able to understand.
Yeah.
And then you might have a different perspective. Yes, because we are under contracts, and there are certain expectations in our contracts. But at the same time, sometimes on the opposite side, those expectations aren't necessarily met, and you have an option. If your boss isn't treating you the way you like, you can either eat shit or say, "No, I'm full. I'm not eating anymore. I'm done."
Yeah. And that's what you have to do. I mean, is that what you were thinking? I saw you wanted to.
Well, it was just with him. It without speaking to him recently, it comes to a point where enough is enough.
Right.
For him to have that moment that he had on Monday Night Raw the way that he did, that was his coming out party for letting the world know that he's tired of the crap that he had been fed.
I want the world to know.
But I mean, he's done the same that we've done.
Yeah.
Hell, he was with us in 01.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Pissing people off.
Yeah.
But I mean, he had been there long enough. He had seen just about enough, and I'm pretty sure he finally, he just had enough of that environment.
Yeah.
And I didn't say it until recently when I was over in the UK that when I had left, I was really angry because I give so much of myself.
Angry.
Angrier.
I was really angry. Let me correct that phrase for you.
Because in that environment, it took all the fun out of what we do.
I do remember being in a Jersey All Pro show that I think it was one of the first shows that you worked after you left WWE. And some fan came up to you and said, "I'm sorry you're not in WWE anymore." And you just looked at him and go, "I'm not." And it was just like that. I was like, okay, all right, that's not a topic to broach right now and then.
Well, the thing is, I'm pretty honest about I'm pretty honest about most of the stuff that I experienced.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it wasn't a bother.
It's important, for fans to understand. Again, most WWE fans don't realize that there's wrestling outside of WWE. So in their mind, they can't understand why you would want to go wrestling in Japan. Like, they don't get that. There are people in Japan that don't know who John Cena is. You got people that go to the New Japan shows that don't know him.
Right.
He exists as a guy in the back of a magazine because the wrestling magazines, they cover WWE, 2-3 pages in the back of the wrestling mag. But you got people that go, John Cena, American wrestler. Yes, yeah, I think maybe I see one time. They have no clue. You got people in Mexico that their dream is to wrestle for CMLL and be the CMLL heavyweight champion. Not in America. There's a world outside of that. And as you know, we said the branding has been done so well that the product has been presented so well, but it's not for everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone doesn't go there. I became a professional wrestler because I didn't want to get a job. I didn't want to, and which ironically I ended up having to wear a suit and tie anyway, but I didn't want to work in a corporate environment. That's not what I wanted. I didn't want that kind of structure. And I like, especially now since I left and went to Japan, being in charge of my life. And people don't realize when you work for that particular company, it is your life. You're on the road 250 plus days a year.
And like you said, you're doing what they say.
Yeah, you
like you said, what they give you is like, all right, well, this is what I'm doing.
But in Japan, I'll go to Japan for a month. When I was there, I'd go there for a month, and I'd be off for a few weeks, and I'd be there for a few weeks, and my body was like, yo, what's going on here, man? You're not beating me up every day. What's going on now? And when I took a year off completely, and TNA had reached out to me multiple times, and I just wasn't ready yet, and the door was still open for me to return, and ultimately, Actually, Joe had a lot to do with it when he showed me his schedule. I said, wait a minute, that's your schedule? Oh, man, okay, well, maybe that might work for me.
Yeah.
And, we talked and
the new TNA TV schedule where you're doing 3 nights in New York and you got 6 weeks of TV has got to be, like, beautiful.
You got a month off. And I don't...
A TV, at least.
I don't do, the way my deal is, I don't do very many live events.
Yeah.
I think since I've been with them, I've done 2 live events, I think, which is great. And if they ask me, hey, can you do, okay, I don't, but I'm free to do what I want to do. If I want to work an indie date, it's cool. I can do anything I want except appear on TV for another wrestling company. And I love it. It's great. At this point in my life and my career, it's the perfect fit for me, for what I want to accomplish.
Let me ask you, because we're winding down, but I have one wise-ass question that I've wanted to ask Homicide forever. It's the first TNA Impact show on a Monday night, and that big red cage is above the ring. And they've constructed it in such a way that you can't get out of the damn thing.
Yeah.
What's going on in your head when that's happening?
I'm going to kill Vince Russo.
Yeah.
That's it, right?
I'm going to kill him because I remember that day, it was 2 o'clock. Vince Russo came up to me, hey, man, how about you practice? And I was thinking, I would say, practice? What you mean practice? I can do this.
It's a cage match.
It's a cage match. Then I noticed it looked like some Mel Gibson, Mad Max Terradome. I was like, what kind of crap is this?
2
like
man
a bird
enter,
cage.
1 man leave.
Who's the king of Bartertown?
I'm very confident on everything. So I went up to the cage. First of all, it's a live show.
Yeah.
First ever on it was embarrassing.
And it was the first match.
Yeah, the very first match. Somebody said went to the cage, and even the goddamn Jesus Christ, can I go over the goddamn hole? And the only thing I was thinking is, I'm gonna kill Vince Russo when I come down. And here come Jeff Hardy and give me a chair shot. And I said it again. Vince Russo is very lucky. I'm not gonna kill him.
Right.
Then Terry Taylor came up to me. You okay, Homicide? No, I'm gonna kill Vince Russo. I mean, I like her, but I want to kill him.
Right.
I like him.
I like him so much, I want to kill him.
It's like the mafia, like the Goodfellas kind of thing, Just don't.
Well, they constructed that cage in such a way where
You mean
no
kill him with
man.
kindness, right?
Man, yeah,
Appreciation.
man. By the way, man, that typical match is not for professional wrestlers.
Yeah.
I'm not goddamn Mel Gibson, Chuck Norris, or Bruce Lee.
It's a fanboy match.
Man, fuck that fanboy. It's a piece of shit match. That's what it is.
But tell us how you really feel.
Fuck San Francisco Giants.
Getting the stuff that's on D's mind.
These nuts, Holmes.
God damn. Wow. I'm going to close out. I want to go around the room, and I want everybody to tell me, is TNA in a good place? What do they need to do to stay there? Or what do they need to do to get there?
We're going through growing pains, so we're going to be okay. Like I said earlier today, we like goddamn Wu-Tang Clan, Voltron. We're going to be okay.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
You got this Voltron robot in the organization.
We okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, TNA's going to be good.
Yeah.
And all these fanboys, the damn promotion's going to close down. They need to shut the fuck up and watch a horror flick or something. You know what I mean? Like, shut up, But they're going to be okay. TNA's going to be okay. Every business is about growing pains. So we've been through it. We survive.
D got away with words.
I love it.
I got Topic King. I'm grumpy now.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
MVP, what do you think?
Grumpy
Grumpy.
Definitely, based on these last shows we've had here in New York, the New York crowd has been amazing.
They're wild.
The venue so intimate, like the crowd's right on top of you. The energy's there, so that creates a synergy that the ratings speak for themselves. Since we did these tapings in New York, the ratings have gone up.
Do you think the focus on ECW is a mistake?
A mistake. It's tough to say because I'm not sure. I can't necessarily say, but I do know. I don't think it's a focus on ECW as much as the guys that are involved in that particular storyline are ex-ECW. But you got a lot of guys doing great work. And I was watching those matches last week, watching, Key and those X Division matches. And I even tweeted at one moment when Joe and Homicide were in the ring, I'm like, this is classic Joe and Homicide. No diss to El Tigre, but, Tigre Uno. That you got guys that love this and are good at this, and you got fans that want to see these guys do what they do. I'm not concerned, man. And as far as decisions that may to be differently, decisions that should be made differently, I'm not in upper management. But I think any company that you work for, you'll disagree with some decisions that are made. But I think overall, the product, I think, inarguably, has been better. And we, John Gaboric said, "Hey, what I'm going to do is step back and let you guys wrestle more, let you guys do what you do." And the proof is in the pudding.
That's the right focus to take,
I think.
What about you, Joe?
At the risk of sounding philosophical, I don't worry about where I'm going because I know where I've been. And, it very much holds true with TNA. Growing pains is it's a good way to put it because it's a company that's going through change. It's growing tremendously, and yeah, man, it's just I'm not too worried about the future, man. I think as pro wrestling fans become more vocal and start to come to the forefront of the fan space of the pro wrestling industry, you're going to see a lot better wrestling, and they will eventually influence the product. And ultimately, this leads back to the fans. If you really want to see a certain style of pro wrestling, and you want to see what you enjoy, then tune in for those types of matches. And if you like pro wrestling, then definitely tune in to Impact Wrestling because we're gonna have some good wrestling matches coming up here.
And the great thing about where you all are from is you all know that regardless, you're gonna be all right. You've always been all right.
Fine.
We good, man.
Well, Key?
Based off of what they said, something that never fails is quality.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, quality doesn't fail.
Forget about the fact that I've known these men for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Forget about the fact that we're friends. I respect the hell out of each and every one of them because of the work ethic they have to perform as professionals in that ring. The quality of their performances dictates their value. These are not low-level men. These are highly skilled professionals. When you see that in the ring, that's when they talk about magic happens. Mm-hmm. Because these guys are so highly skilled at what they do. What John said, what Big said, I'm going to sit back and let you guys do what you do. That's the bottom line. It's our job to, when that bell rings, to give the people who are coming to pay to see these events and see these matches, give them quality.
Right.
You asked earlier, does it affect my performance, with all the other things that go on? No, because that's what we're in control of.
Exactly, yeah.
And the quality of our performances can never go down. It always has to be maintained at a certain level to maintain that level of respect for both sides, from your peers and from the public. But, when it makes it even more special when you got guys you can trust, got guys that you have a high degree of respect for because you understand their paths that have led them to be here. And you were talking about earlier about, the quality, sitting back and letting the wrestlers wrestle. They're letting us do something that they've never let us do, and that's put on probably the more higher profile matches that could potentially be big money.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this round of TNA in the Manhattan Center has something that's never been done in TNA, and that's have finally a singles match between Joe and I.
It's big.
For people who are unfamiliar with the product, they may not necessarily think it's as big as the pure pro wrestling fans. But understanding there's something on the line with the X Division Championship, I have a highly skilled competitor in front of me. It's no different than any other day, with the exception that we know right now is going to be the moment for us to go out there and show the world what we're made of.
So a couple of things. Number one, I won't worry about TNA unless I find out, one of you four is released. Because it sounds like as long as you four are there, we're good. But number two, let
me cut you off.
Yeah.
And I just want to say that almost comes off as disparaging to the rest of the talent in the locker room. And you have tremendously talented guys that have the same outlook that we do. You got guys like Bobby Roode that, man, he's a star. You got guys that, EY and Gunner and Aries and more names that, that I'm not thinking of right now. But all of these guys have the same work ethic and the same outlook and the same passion. So, while we're here now, we're having this conversation, there are other guys in the locker room that, feel the same way we do. So I don't, want to discount them in that regard, because those guys, and Joe could speak to that better than I could because he's been there longer.
Yeah.
But, those guys as well are what's going to keep this train running.
Joe, are you glad that there seems like there's less of the let's take pre-established talent and try to get off on that now than there ever has been before? Because there was a time when that was kind of the big push behind TNA, was guys that
In a manner of speaking, yes.
Yeah.
I just think there's a lot of guys positioned to take advantage of those opportunities than there were in previous times in TNA.
Yeah.
And previous times in TNA, I mean, they brought in guys and they paid them well to bring their name recognition for them. Did they capitalize the best on it? At times, no. At times, yes. But now I think they realize that their strength lies in what's already sitting in the hangar. So, hopefully we'll see a lot more guys out there used to their full potential.
Well, I could literally sit here and talk to you guys for hours longer. But you guys got a show to get to. And, I mean, I'll vouch for everything you said. I was at the last set of tapings, and I've been to TNA shows before. And the last set of tapings were far and away. It was like a whole different show. I mean, they're far and away. It's obviously a new vision behind what's going on. And they all I saw 2 of the 3 shows. They were all great. I'm going back this week, so my expectations are high. As long as there's a place for people to see it, and I'm sure there will be, and I hope there will be. I'm thinking good things. So, Homicide, Low-Key, Samoa Joe, MVP. Thank you all for allowing me the opportunity to hang out with you guys for a little while and talk to the wrestling Wu-Tang Clan Voltron for a while.
Oh, yeah.
Let me give a quick shout out. Shout out to Steve Mack. For,
Yeah, of course,
helping.
Monster Mac.
Hell yeah. I got to show
You
him
got a
some
big
love
head.
too.
We used to love you.
Steve Mack
Your
has
neck
brought
and your
me.
shoulders are one of the same, but we don't care. We love you, Steve.
We'll leave it at that. I love Steve Mack too. He brought me you guys. He brought me into Jersey All Pro. He's like a little wrestling guardian angel. That's just like every 6 months he's got a little something. Hey, you want to do something like So, but thank you all for being here.
Hey, and you know what? I'm just on this note, to the people that do watch TNA and to the people that are fans and consume the product, thank you. Thank you very much. If you're listening to this, thank you, and continue to do so. Whether we continue to be on Spike or whether we move to another network, we're not going to work any less harder, and we're going to continue to put on the shows that you've seen lately. So, we're going to continue to give you this high caliber product. But thank you very much for supporting the brand.
And I will have mentioned in the intro to this, but of course, Thursday nights, Spike TV is Impact right now. And the one thing I'll say about TNA guys is, unlike other places, I've had you guys, Bubba, you're so passionate about making sure people know what you're doing. You're booking yourselves. You're not waiting for publicity departments to get it right. You're saying, hey, come on, let's do something. Let's do something cool. Let's do something special. Let's get on the radio and do something. Let's inform people of this thing. So I think that's a cool thing to do.
Awesome.
So thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us, man.
Thanks for having us.
All right.
And I'll form the head.